Who was Socrates?
Socrates, c. 469 to 399 BCE, was an ancient Greek philosopher from Athens, widely regarded as one of the founders of Western philosophy.
What method of inquiry is Socrates famous for?
The Socratic method, elenchus, a form of cooperative dialogue using questions and answers to stimulate critical thinking and illuminate ideas.
Why did Socrates never write anything down?
Socrates believed that written words could not adequately convey philosophical truth. He preferred live dialectical conversation where ideas could be tested in real time.
What does the phrase "I know that I know nothing" mean?
It expresses Socratic ignorance, the idea that true wisdom begins with recognizing the limits of one's own knowledge.
How did Socrates die?
He was sentenced to death by an Athenian jury in 399 BCE and executed by drinking hemlock, after being convicted of impiety and corrupting the youth.
What is the Socratic paradox, no one errs willingly?
Socrates held that all wrongdoing is the result of ignorance. If a person truly knows what is good, they will necessarily do it.
What is the Apology of Socrates?
A text by Plato recording Socrates' defense speech at his trial, in which he argues that the examined life is the only life worth living.
Who was Plato?
Plato, c. 428 to 348 BCE, was a student of Socrates and founder of the Academy in Athens, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world.
What is Plato's theory of forms?
The theory that non-material abstract forms, such as beauty, justice, equality, represent the most fundamental reality, and physical objects are imperfect copies of these forms.
What is the allegory of the cave?
A metaphor from Plato's Republic illustrating how most people perceive only shadows of reality, while the philosopher ascends to knowledge of the true forms.
What is the Republic about?
Plato's Republic explores justice, the ideal state, and the philosopher-king, arguing that the best rulers are those who understand the form of the good.
What are the three parts of the soul according to Plato?
Reason, logistikon, spirit, thumoides, and appetite, epithumedikon, each corresponding to a class in the ideal city.
What is Platonic dualism?
The view that reality is divided into two realms, the intelligible world of eternal forms and the sensible world of changing physical objects.
What is the allegory of the divided line?
A model in the Republic dividing knowledge into four levels: imagination, belief, thought, and understanding, progressing from opinion to true knowledge.
Who was Aristotle?
Aristotle, 384 to 322 BCE, was a student of Plato and tutor of Alexander the Great, often called the father of Western philosophy for his vast contributions to logic, science, and ethics.
What is Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia?
Eudaimonia means flourishing or happiness, for Aristotle, the highest human good achieved by living virtuously in accordance with reason.
What is the doctrine of the mean?
Aristotle's ethical principle that virtue is a mean between two extremes, excess and deficiency, e.g., courage is the mean between recklessness and cowardice.
What are Aristotle's four causes?
Material cause, what something is made of; formal cause, its form or design; efficient cause, what made it; and final cause, its purpose or telos.
What is Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics about?
It is Aristotle's major ethical work exploring virtue, character, and the good life, arguing that happiness comes from the practice of virtue.
How did Aristotle differ from Plato on universals?
Aristotle rejected Plato's separate realm of forms, arguing that universals exist within particular things, immanent realism, not in a transcendent world.
What is Aristotle's contribution to logic?
Aristotle invented formal syllogistic logic, the study of valid deductive reasoning using premises and conclusions, presented in his Organon.
Who was René Descartes?
Descartes, 1596 to 1650, was a French philosopher and mathematician, often called the father of modern philosophy.
What does cogito, ergo sum mean?
I think, therefore I am. A Descartes' foundational certainty that the act of doubting proves the existence of the thinking self.
What is Cartesian doubt?
A method of systematic skepticism where Descartes doubts everything that can possibly be doubted in order to find indubitable truths.
What is Cartesian dualism?
The view that mind and body are two fundamentally different substances. The mind is non-physical, residential cogitans, and the body is physical, residential extensa.
What is the evil demon hypothesis?
A thought experiment in Descartes' meditations positing that a powerful deceiver could be causing all our sensory experiences to be false.
What are Descartes' meditations on first philosophy?
A foundational work in which Descartes systematically doubts all beliefs and rebuilds knowledge from the certainty of the cogito, including arguments for God's existence.
Who was Immanuel Kant?
Kant, 1724 to 1804, was a German philosopher whose critical philosophy revolutionized epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics.
What is the categorical imperative?
Kant's supreme moral law: act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law.
What is the difference between phenomena and noumena in Kant?
Phenomena are things as they appear to us through sensory experience. Noumena are things in themselves, which we can never directly know.
What is Kant's critique of pure reason about?
It examines the limits and scope of human knowledge, arguing that while knowledge begins with experience, its structure is shaped by the mind's a priori categories.
What are synthetic a priori judgments?
Judgments that are both informative, synthetic, and knowable independent of experience, a priori, e.g., 7 plus 5 is equal to 12, central to Kant's epistemology.
What is Kant's notion of duty, Pflicht?
For Kant, moral actions must be done from duty alone, not from inclination or self-interest. Only actions motivated by respect for the moral law have moral worth.
What is the kingdom of ends?
A Kantian ideal in which all rational beings treat each other as ends in themselves, never merely as means, forming a moral community.
Who was Friedrich Nietzsche?
Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900, was a German philosopher known for radical critiques of morality, religion, and conventional philosophy.
What did Nietzsche mean by God is dead?
He meant that belief in the Christian God has lost its power as the foundation of Western morality and meaning, creating a crisis of values.
What is the Übermensch?
The Overman or Superman, Nietzsche's ideal of a person who creates their own values and meaning in a world without inherent purpose.
What is the will to power?
Nietzsche's concept that the fundamental drive of all living beings is not survival but the expansion and expression of power and creative force.
What is eternal recurrence?
The thought experiment asking, could you affirm your life if you had to live it over and over identically for eternity? A test of life affirmation.
What is Nietzsche's master-slave morality?
A distinction between master morality, valuing strength, pride, nobility, and slave morality, valuing humility, pity, resentment. Nietzsche saw Christianity as embodying slave morality.
What is Thus Spoke Zarathustra?
Nietzsche's philosophical novel in which the prophet Zarathustra teaches concepts like the Übermensch, eternal recurrence, and the death of God.
Who was David Hume?
Hume, 1711 to 1776, was a Scottish empiricist philosopher known for his radical skepticism about causation, induction, and the self.
What is Hume's problem of induction?
The argument that we have no rational justification for believing the future will resemble the past. Inductive reasoning rests on habit, not logic.
What is Hume's fork?
The distinction between relations of ideas, analytic, certain, e.g., math, and matters of fact, synthetic, probable, e.g., empirical claims.
What did Hume say about causation?
Hume argued that we never observe necessary connection between events. Causation is just constant conjunction, one event regularly following another.
What is Hume's bundle theory of the self?
The view that there is no enduring self, the mind is just a bundle of perceptions, impressions and ideas, in constant flux.
What is Hume's A Treatise of Human Nature?
Hume's major work arguing that all knowledge derives from sense experience and applying empiricism to moral philosophy, causation, and personal identity.
Who was John Locke?
Locke, 1632–1704, was an English philosopher considered the father of liberalism and a founder of British empiricism.
What is Locke's tabula rasa?
The idea that the mind at birth is a blank slate, all knowledge comes from sensory experience, not innate ideas.
What is Locke's theory of personal identity?
Locke argued that personal identity depends on continuity of consciousness, memory, not the soul or body.
What is Locke's social contract theory?
The idea that governments derive their authority from the consent of the governed and must protect natural rights to life, liberty, and property.
What is Locke's essay concerning human understanding?
A foundational empiricist work arguing that all ideas come from experience, sensation and reflection, and rejecting innate knowledge.
What are Locke's natural rights?
The rights to life, liberty, and property, rights that exist prior to government and which the state is created to protect.
Who was George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel?
Hegel, 1770–1831, was a German idealist philosopher known for his dialectical method and philosophy of history.
What is Hegel's dialectic?
A process of development through thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Contradictions drive progress toward higher levels of understanding.
What does Hegel mean by Geist, spirit?
Geist is the collective rational spirit or mind that develops through history, reaching self-awareness through human culture, art, religion, and philosophy.
What is the master-slave dialectic in Hegel?
A passage in the phenomenology of spirit showing how self-consciousness develops through a struggle for recognition between two beings.
What is Hegel's phenomenology of spirit?
A work tracing the development of consciousness from immediate sense certainty to absolute knowledge, through dialectical stages.
What is Hegel's philosophy of history?
Hegel argued that history is the rational progress of spirit toward freedom, unfolding through dialectical conflict among nations and ideas.
Who was John Stuart Mill?
Mill, 1806–1873, was a British philosopher and political economist, the most influential utilitarian thinker of the 19th century.
What is Mill's utilitarianism?
The ethical theory that actions are right in proportion as they promote happiness, pleasure and absence of pain, for the greatest number.
What is the difference between higher and lower pleasures in Mill?
Mill argued that intellectual and moral pleasures, higher, are superior in quality to bodily pleasures, lower, better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied.
What is Mill's harm principle?
The principle that the only justification for restricting individual liberty is to prevent harm to others, stated in On Liberty.
What is Mill's On Liberty about?
A defense of individual freedom of thought, speech, and action against the tyranny of the majority and governmental overreach.
What did Mill contribute to women's rights?
Mill wrote The Subjection of Women, 1869, arguing that the legal subordination of women is wrong and a barrier to human progress.
Who was Ludwig Wittgenstein?
Wittgenstein, 1889–1951, was an Austrian-British philosopher who made groundbreaking contributions to logic, language, and the philosophy of mind.
What is the picture theory of meaning?
In the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, Wittgenstein argued that propositions are logical pictures of facts, language mirrors the structure of reality.
What are language games?
A concept from Wittgenstein's later work, The Philosophical Investigations, suggesting that meaning arises from the use of words within specific social activities, games.
What does Wittgenstein mean by "the limits of my language mean the limits of my world"?
That what we can think and experience is bounded by what we can express in language, from the Tractatus, Proposition 5.6.
What is the private language argument?
Wittgenstein's argument that a language understandable only to a single individual is impossible because language requires public, shared rules for meaning.
How did Wittgenstein's philosophy change between early and late periods?
Early Wittgenstein, Tractatus, sought a perfect logical language. Later Wittgenstein, Investigations, emphasized ordinary language use and rejected his earlier rigid framework.
What is a form of life in Wittgenstein?
The broader cultural and social context in which language games are embedded. Understanding language requires understanding the form of life it belongs to.
Who was Jean-Paul Sartre?
Sartre, 1905–1980, was a French existentialist philosopher, novelist, and playwright known for his idea that existence precedes essence.
What does "existence precedes essence" mean?
Sartre's claim that humans have no predetermined nature, we exist first, then define ourselves through our choices and actions.
What is radical freedom in Sartre?
The idea that humans are always free to choose, even in extreme circumstances, and that we are condemned to be free.
What is bad faith, mauvaise foi?
Sartre's term for self-deception, denying one's own freedom and responsibility by pretending to be determined by external forces or fixed identities.
What is Sartre's being and nothingness?
Sartre's major philosophical work exploring consciousness, freedom, and the nature of being through a phenomenological existentialist lens.
What is the look, le regard, in Sartre?
The experience of being seen by another consciousness, which transforms us into an object, revealing the fundamental conflict in human relationships.
What is Sartre's concept of anguish?
The awareness of one's radical freedom and total responsibility for one's choices, with no excuses or external guarantees of meaning.
Who was Simone de Beauvoir?
De Beauvoir, 1908–1986, was a French existentialist philosopher and feminist, best known for The Second Sex, a foundational text of modern feminism.
What is the key thesis of The Second Sex?
One is not born, but rather becomes, a woman, arguing that femininity is a social construction, not a biological destiny.
What does de Beauvoir mean by woman as the other?
That throughout history, man has been defined as the subject and norm, while woman is defined as the other, secondary and subordinate.
How does de Beauvoir apply existentialism to feminism?
She argues that women must claim their freedom and transcendence rather than accept the passive, immanent roles imposed on them by patriarchal society.
What is de Beauvoir's The Ethics of Ambiguity?
A work arguing that human freedom is ambiguous, we are both free and situated, and genuine ethics requires embracing this ambiguity and willing freedom for all.
What was the relationship between Sartre and de Beauvoir?
They were lifelong intellectual and romantic partners who influenced each other's work while maintaining an unconventional open relationship.
Who was Confucius?
Confucius, 551–479 BCE, was a Chinese philosopher whose teachings on ethics, family, and governance profoundly shaped East Asian culture.
What is Run in Confucianism?
Benevolence or humaneness, the central Confucian virtue of compassion and love for others, considered the foundation of all moral behavior.
What is Li in Confucianism?
Ritual propriety, the norms of proper conduct, etiquette, and social ceremonies that maintain harmony and express respect in relationships.
What is the Confucian concept of the Junzi?
The exemplary person or gentleman, an ideal of moral cultivation who embodies virtue, learning, and propriety.
What are the 5 key relationships in Confucianism?
Ruler-subject, parent-child, husband-wife, elder-younger sibling, and friend-friend, each with reciprocal duties and responsibilities.
What is the Analecta, Luan?
The Analects, a collection of sayings and ideas attributed to Confucius, compiled by his disciples, and the most important Confucian text.
What is filial piety, Shao, in Confucianism?
Devotion and respect toward one's parents and ancestors, a cornerstone of Confucian ethics and social order.
Who was Lao Tzu?
Lao Tzu, 6th century BCE, traditional dating, was a legendary Chinese philosopher credited as the founder of Taoism and author of the Tao Te Ching.
What is the Tao?
The way, the fundamental, nameless principle underlying all of reality. It cannot be fully expressed in words and is the source of everything.
What is Wu Wei?
Non-action or effortless action, acting in harmony with the natural flow of the Tao rather than forcing outcomes through willful striving.
What is the Tao Te Ching?
A short, poetic text of about 81 chapters attributed to Lao Tzu, presenting the core teachings of Taoism on the Tao, virtue, and naturalness.
How does Taoism view simplicity and nature?
Taoism values returning to simplicity, spontaneity, and harmony with nature, rejecting artificial complexity and excessive desire.
How do Confucianism and Taoism differ?
Confucianism emphasizes social order, ritual, and active moral cultivation, while Taoism emphasizes naturalness, spontaneity, and harmony with the Tao.
What is Te in Taoism?
Virtue or power, the natural expression of the Tao in individual beings. Living in accordance with Te means embodying the Tao effortlessly.
What is Aristotle's concept of telos?
Telos means purpose or end goal. Aristotle held that everything in nature has a final cause, and the telos of humans is eudaimonia.